Lachanophobia by Julia Cristo. Julia grew up in Lake in the Hills, Illinois. After high school, she attended Illinois State University, and after that, she worked with students by subbing in schools and tutoring. She is now in Northern Illinois University getting her master's in elementary education. She wrote this memoir about a time in her life when she was face to face with her fears. This video is for all ages. Sit down, children, and let me tell you a tale about the great fight between the innocent girl and the green slimy beast. Once upon a time, there was a dwelling, and in this dwelling lived a girl who feared many things: the unknown, nighttime, authority, just to name a few. She tried her best to never be in any situation where these things were present, but on one cold night, she couldn't avoid them. The first sense that something was amiss was the smell. It smelled like dirty socks. The girl lifted her head to make sure she smelled that correctly. Yes, dirty socks. Why would it smell like dirty socks, she thought. She quickly jumped off her bed and opened the door to her bedroom, following the smell. She got to the stairs where she heard a light humming from a woman. The girl swallowed the lump in her throat. The enchantress. She tried to quietly turn around and go back into her room. She knew that whatever the enchantress was doing downstairs, it would mean nothing good for her. "Julia, come down here," the voice coming from downstairs shouted. She closed her eyes in fear. Oh no, the enchantress heard her. What does she do? Does she pretend she didn't hear and walk back into her room? Or does she walk down the stairs and face the unknown? Before she can even think about it, she turned around and quickly walked down the stairs. Whatever it is, it's better to face it now than later. As the girl walked down the stairs and into a dark hallway, she sees a light at the end of it. Inside the room, she sees the enchantress by the stove. Uh-oh. Without turning around, the enchantress speaks to her. "Sit down." How did the enchantress know she even walked into the room? She must have another pair of eyes in the back of her head. The girl walks to the wooden table, and before she can even sit down, the enchantress puts something down in front of her. Whatever poison the enchantress made was in a white bowl with warm steam coming from the top. She felt a shiver of fear slide through her body as she leaned over to see what was in the pure white bowl. Something green, something slimy, something that smelled like dirty, wet socks. She clenched her jaw as she watched the steam rise up from the bowl. She scrunched her nose, disgusted by the smell wafting into it. It smelled rotten. It smelled like death. She shifted her eyes to the left to the enchantress. The enchantress stared down at her with narrowed eyes. "Eat it." She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Eat this? Eat this? How in the world can she eat this? The smell and texture of this alone would kill her for sure. Does she want to kill her?" The girl narrowed her eyes and looked back at the enchantress. "Julia, eat it now." The girl stared at the enchantress, then looked down at the disgusting lump of so-called food in front of her. She came to the realization that this wasn't food. It clicked in the girl's head. Poison. The girl looked up at the enchantress and quietly spoke, "No." She blinked her eyes at the girl, shocked she would disobey her. "No?" The girl bit her lips, scared to say it again, but knowing that the only way to defeat the enchantress is to stand her ground. "No, I'm not eating it." The enchantress crossed her arms in a stare-down with her. "Oh, really?" The girl mimicked her stance. "Yep." Her stomach dropped as she saw the smirk light up the enchantress's face. "Uh-oh. You aren't leaving this table until all of this is eaten. End of discussion." Her jaw dropped. All? All? Is she trying to kill her? The heat of anger bubbled up in her blood. How dare she? How dare she try to make her do something she doesn't want to do? How dare she? She has to defeat her. The enchantress will not win this fight. The girl stared her down, her voice firm. Fine. I'll stay here all night if I have to. The enchantress's smirk dropped a bit, but then she lifts her chin, not backing down. Perfect. The girl's eyes followed her as she watched her clean up the objects that she used to make this death creation in the bowl in front of her. The girl slowly sat down, still staring at the creation. She knew she ate this, she would die. She will either explode the moment it touched her lips or choke on it as she tried to swallow it down. She can't allow this evil enchantress to destroy her. After the enchantress cleaned everything up, the girl washed as she walked down the dark hallway and disappeared into the night. She looked around, nervous to be alone. The quietness of the room amplified the unease she felt within. She looked over at the clock. 6:16. I have to win this. I just have to, she thought. The girl closed her eyes and took a deep breath, which quickly turned into a coughing fest because the smell of the dirty socks wafted into her nose. She slowly moved the bowl away from her while looking into the dark hallway. What if she tried to sneak away? Could that possibly work? As she quickly got up from the chair, she hears an ominous voice from down the dark hallway. You are not leaving that table until you eat that, so don't even think of getting up. The girl quickly sat down. The enchantress must have eyes all over to be able to know that she got up and tried to leave. Fine then, she thought. I will just have to stay here. Julia watched as the clock kept turning. 6:20, 6:30, 7 o'clock. She nervously looked around outside and watched as the sun set, making the room even darker than it normally was. Her fear of the night was at the forefront of her mind. Things lurked in the dark, things that could eat her. That's when she heard it. Tap, tap, tap. The girl's head shut up to stare at the dark hallway. Tap, tap. She strained her eyes to try to see what she couldn't see, the tapping sound getting louder and louder as it got closer and closer. Tap. She stared into the dark until she saw it. Eyes that were almost glowing. She was frozen in fear as she watched the creature slowly walk out of the dark hallway and into the room. The enchantress's creature. The creature walked over to where the girl was sitting, the light tapping on her nails on the floor being heard getting louder. The girl swallowed in fear, staring at the creature. The creature was black as night, with paws that were dipped in white. She stared at the girl, head tilted. That's when a plan formed in her head. Of course, she thought, the creature. Looking down in the dark hallway to make sure the enchantress wasn't there, she quickly took the bowl from the table and lightly put it down on the ground. She watched as the creature sniffed whatever was inside it and then slowly started to eat it. Right when the creature scooped up the last of what was in the bowl, her mom came walking out of the hallway. She looked down at the bowl on the ground, looked back at the girl, and sighed heavily. Julia, you need to stop giving your bowl of spinach to the dog. The girl smirked at her. I win. The end.